What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Coach Booker in the building, man. We are back live once again, man. On the Line podcast, on the Line Sports Media, on the Line After Dark. Hey, listen, we got some After Dark stuff, man, that's going to go down now. I'm sorry. I'm apologize up front, man. I'm gonna apologize up front, man, about what's gonna go down on the After Dark on our After Dark series, man. We're gonna have a little fun, man. We're gonna loosen up a little bit with our After Dark uh series, and that's gonna be our loosen up series, man. Well, y'all get to see us in a little kind of a different element, man. Just a little bit, just a little bit. But first of all, man, let me thank everybody, man, for always following us, man. Following us. Thank you for following us on Facebook, following us on Instagram, and please subscribe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, man. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, man. Without you guys, this wouldn't be possible, man. We still trying to navigate our way through this thing, man. This podcast thing, man. Sports media, different type of media that's trending in the Carolinas and just kind of across the country, man. So that's pretty much we kind of alternative media, right? We sometimes get on here and we say things or cover things the way the media cannot cover it. Is that okay? So y'all make sure y'all stay with us, man. We are definitely an alternative media outlet, man, where sometimes we're gonna bring you interesting topics that they don't talk about in the media, or they may not talk about it like we do. They have boundaries, and guess what? We don't have any boundaries, so we can talk about media the way we want to talk about it. Topics, okay? So tonight, man, we didn't really have anything major that we wanted to talk about. Well, maybe so, right? We, I was talking to some of my colleagues, man. I was talking to some of my colleagues, and I had a few questions that I was asking, man. Of course, everyone knows that I'm kind of deep in the community, very deep in the community, man. Always around kids, always trying to figure out the best way to elevate our kids, educate them, elevate them, keep them safe. I always put myself in that space, right? But I get a little frustrated sometimes, right? Because I'm sometimes just kind of in the dark uh, about what happens to these kids because I get involved in their lives at probably around 5 or 6 years old, right? And they're always the cute little kid, right? That's 5, and they're 6, and then they're 7, and then they're 8, 9, whatever, so on and so forth. And at some point, man, things just start going way left at 12 and 13, 11, 12 and 13. These kids seem to stray. At some point, they get off track. That positive enforcement that we try to give them whenever they're part of the organizations that we're running, whether we're playing football, whether we're guiding them through or navigating them through home issues or whatever. Man, I don't know what happens and once they hit this middle school thing. Once they hit this middle school thing, man, who said that they need? I'm sorry, y'all. I got people that are gonna sign on. Some got a couple educators. Um, Give me 1 second. I'm trying to send a link out to one of them. Okay, I think Miss Tanya. I hope I'm saying her name right. Tanya or Tanya. We gonna get it right. We gonna get it right. Give me 1 second, Miss Tolson. I'm gonna bring you on in 1 second. We're gonna bring Miss Tolson on. She's waiting patiently. Hello, hello, Miss Tolson. Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Uh, turn my volume up. Something ain't right. Ooh, hello.
Can you hear me?
A
Can you
little
hear
bit.
me? You
I
see,
can
I'm
hear you.
talking, but I don't know why y'all can't hear me.
I got you. Yeah, we got you. We got you. I got you now. I got you.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you? Can can you? You can hear me now, Miss Tolson, right?
Yes.
Okay, we got a little delay. Thank you for joining us. And I got my man Tony C
No problem.
in the building.
What's
And I
up,
got
man?
one. Hey, what's up, guys?
Coach Washington.
What's going on?
Good afternoon, man.
What it do?
How you doing?
Hey, holding it on, brother.
I saw you on the flyer, man. I said this guy don't stop. You keep it moving.
Yeah, man. We're trying to get it together.
How you doing, Miss Tolson?
This is legit, man.
Can you hear me, Tanya?
I'm great.
Hey, I don't
I
know if my sound is.
can. Y'all can hear me?
I can
You hear me? Great.
I can hear everyone.
Hey, everybody good, right?
Yep,
Coach Washington,
I'm good.
everybody clear? Yeah. Well, one of the topics, the topic that I wanted to bring in, and I got another athletic director from JMA Middle School. He's going to be coming on as well. Um, so this is one of the topics I wanted to talk about. The reason why I asked Tony to bring on Miss Tolson. Um, he gave me your body. I need my phone. Sorry. Yeah. Is that these kids at age we get these kids at age 5 and 6. We work with them in the community, right? So we work with them, and they're really
Mm-hmm.
cute kids at 5 and 6, and they're participating in whatever programs that we have, organizations throughout the neighborhoods, right? Really cute kids, 5 and 6 and
Mm-hmm.
7 and 8, and then they get to middle school, and this is where I'm lost. Once they get into the middle
Mm-hmm.
school ages, I'm trying to figure out what happens to these kids because it seems like they have a tough transition from, I guess, 5th grade to middle school, and then from middle school to high school. And I wanted to speak to some of the educators like yourself, Miss Tolson, to find out what you've seen as these kids try to transition from those from the 5th grade to your middle school, or from your middle school to high school. What have you seen that are some of the toughest things that they have going on with them as they transition into middle school? What do you notice about most of the
Well,
student athletes?
um, you guys can hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear
Yeah,
you.
Mm-hmm.
we can hear
Hear
you.
me?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, perfect. What's happened is a little bit, one of the biggest issues is self-identification. They're transitioning from that, okay, I'm somebody's baby, this is my baby, and now to be middle school, and around that summertime transition is something just known to everybody called puberty. Puberty kicks in, and what ends up happening is all those, and people don't really look at the chemical balance of it all. A lot of things are happening with them, and what they don't know how to do is control some of those things that's happening, whether it's emotionally, physically, mentally, and they're all over the place. So sometimes it's a great transition in the fact that some of them know how to handle it. They come in, some of them are very mature coming in, and then some of them they can't handle that transition, and some of them are getting treated, as you know, and should not be. Most part, really
Starting to break up a little bit, Miss Tolson.
Let me allow the service. Um,
Mm.
Yeah, she's going underwater.
Yeah, she's gone underwater. If you can hear us, Miss Tolson, maybe there's some adjustments where you are. So maybe you can, yeah. Booyah. And she's gone.
Yep.
So, hey man, so Miss Tolson was kind of enlightening us on some of the challenges that the kids are having. And like she said, maturity, some reaching that puberty. Some of them can handle, I guess, all the emotions and everything that comes with being able to transition from that, being a 10-year or 11-year-old to being, trying to position themselves in sixth grade. And I guess middle school, everybody's trying to, muscle their way in, like trying to find their place. So sometimes it gets a little challenging as they try to find their place, gain respect, you know, in the sixth grade, because I'm sure they got what, 7th and 8th graders around them, which can be a little challenging and sometimes perhaps even overwhelming, um, in the middle school.
Yeah,
And then,
I got a middle school, so I can tell you some of that. Maturity. She said she was hitting like maturity,
Yeah.
trying to find themselves, trying to fit in with other people, trying to find that right group of kids to hang around. And if they're not mature enough, they start hanging around kids, they trying to find friends, but then everybody's not your friend. Your parents tell you that, but you start to see who's your friend. You try to impress people. They trying to impress people. Fitting in and impressing people, I think is the most. And on top of that, man, your home life starts to creep in, like your values, like what you've been taught since you was a young kid. That stuff starts to creep in. Do you have manners? Are you respectful? All of them can't handle their emotions. You try to talk to them and preach that. I try to preach that with be watch, trying to take care of your emotions, handle your emotions. You can't be emotional running around here. But for the most part, and you've seen the book of coaching in middle school football, it starts at home with some of them, their home life. Some of them can handle it better than others and trying to fit in and be accepted. Then I think a lot of these kids got a problem when it comes to the have and the have nots. I think that's a lot of the problem with serving the kids. They start getting in trouble because some of them, like I said, their emotions and what I always like to say to the kids, your defensive mechanism. Some of them defensive mechanism is I'm going to argue with you. I'm going to, say smart. I'm gonna talk back. Defensive mechanism. And what if you behind in your grades or you're not that smart? They want to be accepted, so they're gonna have to. They want to be somebody showing some attention. Then they start, lashing out. I think that's too. They be wanting attention, whether it's positive or negative. They be wanting to be seen sometimes. So I think that's a major part too.
yeah, see, the part that I'm missing is because I don't work inside the school. I only do, of course, the after school, with the football development and training. So I don't get to see what type of issues that I know there's some issues happening in in middle schools, because you got your behavior modification, I think that's what behavior
Yeah.
modification
Mhm.
technicians that's in school, BMTs, and then they have counselors. Of course, your regular your counselors that's in school. And I want to just kind of hear a little bit more get a little bit more insight about what happens when they start seeing some of the kids go through these challenges and these transition, and what type of, what type of programs do they have in school that kind of helps these kids kind of navigate their way from sixth grade to 7th grade, 8th graders? Because if you look at what's happening in the neighborhoods, these 6th and these 7th graders and these 8th graders are the ones that are getting exposed to what's happening in the street, the gang violence, the sex, the drugs, the violence, murder, all of that, gender, challenges with genders. So I'm just trying to figure out, man, because it seems like the middle school ages are the ones that appear to be the most challenging. So why does it happen at that age group? It's got to be challenges for the educators, for the student. I mean, for the educators, for the behavior modifications technicians, the BMTs. It's got to be challenging for the counselors, and of course, the teachers, because these kids, it seems to be the level of disrespect and the boundaries that they cross in middle school. It's the numbers are way up there as it opposed to that fifth grade level. When fifth grade going to sixth grade, going to seventh grade, going to eighth grade. I'm trying to figure out, why do we lose them at that age? Because that's the ages we're losing them. 13 and 14. That's when we start seeing the gang violence, the gangs. I don't hear you again. All of a sudden I don't hear you.
You got me?
I don't know.
You hear me?
Oh, I got you.
Okay. I think I tell people, man, you got to keep these kids busy. When they were young, Booker, what were they practicing? 3 times a week. Then they had the games on Saturday, then you might do something with them. So 3 to 4 days out the week, practice from 6 to 8. So they get out of school 6 to 8. They got to go home, do the homework, go to sleep, go to school. Now the schedule changes. In middle school, you're getting out at 4:30. You play football. Okay, that's a 6 to 8 thing. And then when they start playing the sports, they getting out at 4:30. What they doing from 4:30 to like 9 o'clock? Most some parents are getting home late. They're not. You got to keep them busy, man. You got to keep these kids busy and on the schedule. You have to keep their time occupied. Like I like some parents get their kids free time. I don't believe in letting all these kids have free time, man, because when they got free time, then you can get into something. Like sometimes I'm coming from practice at Sage. I see kids that don't quit the football team. They at the damn McDonald's up the street hanging out, chilling, and they should be home, staying downtown or further South Boulevard, but yet they up the street from Sage at the McDonald's hanging out. What are you doing here? School, you've been out of school 2-3 hours.
Yeah, and I think keeping them busy is definitely the thing to do. And I think the guys that the presidents of these neighborhood organizations, they try to continue. We complain about them playing a sport a year round. Let's just say, for instance, football.
Yeah,
we complain about it, but that's not the age groups. I'm talking about that 13,
that
7th grade, that 7th grade,
9th
and 8th grade.
Yeah,
and then definitely that transition that they try to make to 9th grade. But between 7th and 8th grade, that's when all of a sudden we've lost the focus of our kids, right? Miss Thompson, you made it back.
Yes, I'm on the laptop now, so y'all can see me, and
we can see you now.
Yeah, a few challenges, huh?
Yeah.
I think the
I was in the car on the way back from another meeting. It was just a couple things.
Yep, just being busy, and that's okay. Doing your thing, yeah, and it's okay.
I think the daddies play a part. Look,
huh?
Your dad, you had your boys on lock. It was activities being watched over. You was not letting them get out of sight. You was checking it immediately. How it is to be a young man and carry yourself. You had friends who had kids, and majority of all your guys who coached with you, they was with their kids, the dads. I think that's
absolutely. I just think we've lost our way with the village that we used to talk about, with the old village that used to raise the child, right? The whole neighborhood would get involved, right?
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, I'm puzzled and very unsettled about what happens between 7th grade, 8th grade, and then transitioning to high school. These kids are getting exposure. This is where they're getting the most negative exposure from my observation, where they're being exposed to the gun violence, they're being exposed to, they're getting sex, drugs, and gun violence. And my question is I wanted to talk to someone who was deep into into middle schools, that age group, who probably can tell you most about the challenges that they see within their middle schools and this, between that age group, 13 and 14. If you read about the age groups that are committing or being exposed to selling drugs and murder and sex, it's that age group. What's happening? I'm asking, well, what's going on in the middle schools? What are we doing in the middle schools when the BMTs and the counselors? What kind of conversations are we having with these kids? Where do we go astray in those middle schools? What do you, Miss Tolson? That's you're deep into it, an assistant principal.
I am.
Oh yeah.
Well, a lot of it is people don't want to tell people's kids, you don't want to tell people's kids what to do because these parents are not like it was when we were growing up. The village aspect, it is don't tell my child what to do, and it's the exposure that these children have. Everything is in their face, so it's almost a different level of peer pressure that's going on in these middle schools. I'll give you just a simple example. We're in a lunchroom with a young man. Young man knew he could touch the rim. Okay, just something real simple. Like we're in the middle of lunch. Kids are surrounded. They're eating. This young other boy challenged, oh, I know you can't touch it. Now they know if he was going to do something, he would get in trouble. But because of the other people around him and they was videotaping him, he jumped up in the middle of everybody eating and tapped the rim. I mean, and it was like, boom. And I'm looking at him like, have you lost your entire mind?
Right.
In here with all these people and doing crazy stuff. And to him, it was, well, he challenged me. So what was I supposed to do? So since everything's in their face and nobody can tell, don't you tell my child, don't tell me how to raise my child type mentality. Where I won't say the new moms, because I don't want to blame it, because all young moms are not like that. But for the most part, you have these moms. You have these moms that will not let you discipline their child. They got the future NFL star they think they got in their room, the future NBA baller, which I tell them all the time is 1%, less than 1% that you're going to make it. I even told, and Coach Tony could tell you, we had one of our top recruits, and I called that boy hot trash every day because I said, when you leave here, and you go to where these big boys doing 6A and these 7A schools, and you going up there and start to train with them. And lo and behold, that baby called me first day of training crying. You was right. I ain't know what was happening. This is what they doing to me. And you sounding like your mama and you crying because you are so babied. And a lot of these kids these parents are actually scared of these kids and what they're going to say. And am I going to be their friend? And they're not my friend in this day and age. And I'm looking at them like, if you are your child's friend, you are not doing your job. I'm not saying you can't be, on a cordial level with your child, but you also have to be there to discipline your child. And with all those things that are going on in social media influence and all these challenges and the things that these kids face right now, it's challenging for us as adults to parent them or coach them, because you guys on the coach's side, you see, they like, man, I just forget college. I'll get me an NLI and I'll be making more money than I will in the NFL. And they are correct. They are correct. But if I'm not coachable, why would I pick you up?
Absolutely.
If you're not to be told what to do, then it's how it is. And it's affecting the schoolwork. It is, these phones, everything. And I'm a phone person. All of us are phone persons. I think we're, kind of attached to that. But in this day and age, it's getting worse. And if I could just by one click of a button access everything that's going on in my life, then that's going to spoil me for anything else to learn, or you can't tell me anything because the internet done told me it all. So, there are a lot of different factors that I see every day, the bullying, the You don't have the freshest clothes on. You don't have this book bag, because the big thing right now is the Spray Grounds book bag. When I learned that the Spray Grounds book bag was $90, and just because everybody else had a Spray Grounds book bag, most of my middle schoolers, I would say 75% of my middle schoolers are walking around with a Spray Grounds book bag.
I have no idea what that is.
It's the
Might as
one
well.
with the different characters on the back. They're all leather bags, and they have these different characters on the back. Some of them have, SpongeBob. Some, whatever
Okay.
the character.
I've seen them. Yeah, now. Yeah.
But they're $90 a bag and up. So you
Yeah.
telling me you carry your books in is $90? Just because my friend has it, and mom, you got to get it. I got to have this bag. So the peer pressure is a lot more than what we see. And when we're trying to fit in, and what these kids are trying to do right now is to fit this mold that we see out there, the young ladies, the young men as well. And when they don't fit that, and that starts in that 6th grade going into middle school era, then they're trying to do everything to make sure they fit in. And it's really sad, but that's what we're up against.
Right. So go ahead, Tony.
Yes, we can see it. Yes.
Tony, you're talking, but you can't hear you.
PNM number 1.
Can you hear me, Tanya?
Yes,
we can hear you now.
Okay, I got a question for you. So you were just speaking to how the kids have a big influence on things they want and desire, and how those parents get those things for them.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see a big gap between the haves and the have-nots, and how that affects attitudes and the way they react to that? Because like you say, if there are kids who can just get a $100 book bag, there has to be an opposite end of the spectrum of those who just can't get it. And how does that affect the way those kids act?
It honestly, for my school, it's a little different, because Coach Tony, you've been there. We got a lot of halves at Mountain Island. So it's when you have those other kids that may not be able to get it, they will sacrifice something else not to get it. So I literally haven't seen a kid, even mostly our African-American kids, that does not have that book bag, because they'll sacrifice something else. They'll say, well, mom, I won't get the new pair of Jordans because I'll buy the book bag. Or mom, you know what? Won't you not get me this so I can get this? So the have and the have-nots, there are a lot of have-nots there, but they are keeping up with the Joneses aspect to make sure they fit in. And whatever that takes to fit in, that is what they're doing. And that's a sad situation, but that is what's happening now because of the consistent peer pressure of them not being able to fit in that middle school, high school. As you get to high school, yes, those gentlemen and some of the ladies do have the book bags, but they really are not into that. They're into other things.
Right.
But that middle school, mostly all of them have that book bag, or it's just crazy how they tune to whatever they almost like sheep. Everybody's getting herded into the same place, and that's how they work.
So you're in a private school, right? Is this
a charter
school, right? So kind of different than regular public school, Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, right? A little bit. I mean, because and I'm gonna say this, and the reason why I say that is because in some of the public schools, Mecklenburg County schools, not all of them, if the have-nots don't have it, what I'm saying at the ages 13, 14, they're getting it another way. They're taking it or stealing it from other kids. Do you understand? And I think that's when those behaviors that I'm talking about that start, like where these kids, these cute little kids that was in 5th grade, now all of a sudden they start all these negative behaviors, but it seems to be consistently happening around that middle school age.
Yes, and we do have a big problem. I will interject and say this. There is a big problem around there. I'll say it's just on the opposite side of meaning I've seen an increase, not necessarily at my school, but middle school, because I've talked to other assistant principals of people like it that may have it, but the kids, kids don't have jobs. But I've seen instances where they will take it from their parents. They're not out there like your Charlotte Mecklenburg people that will go on Freedom Drive and try to, get it the ski mask way. But you still stealing from your parents. They'll literally take their credit card and
That's
say,
even worse.
"Oh, I don't have it. Oh, you're not going to buy it from me. I'm going to take it from you." So with Charlotte Mecklenburg, especially in those areas of that corridor of change, that's your Betty Ford Road, that's your, Tuckasegee, around those areas, your have-nots going to get it how they live. And that's just how it is, especially in that middle school age. And what's crazy about that middle school age, those kids are so well versed in the law that they know, oh, if I just get this, or if I steal this, I'm just going to get this little bit of time. It was a shocker to a lot of people, that young man in Gaston County that got charged as an adult for murdering that young man, because the reality is starting to kick in that you're going to get some time. So they're like, well, I know if I steal this book bag or if I rob this person, I'm going to go to juvie and then my record's going to get sealed when I turn 18. So you kind of get that mentality, and somebody is schooling them, unfortunately, in the facts of the law. Or sometimes your older kids are putting the younger kids up because they know that they won't get that I say slap on the wrist type deal. That is what's happening out here now.
Right. So in your middle schools, do you guys have any type of programs or symposiums? Or I know we used to bring in people that can kind of talk to the kids about, to help try to prevent these potential behaviors that's happening to these kids. Because is there anything like set that you may do during the school year that might, bring in? I remember we ran a program or organization in the neighborhood, and we used to bring in guys that worked at the gang units that could recognize whether a kid was in a gang or things of that nature. Do you guys have anything in your schools that kind of prevent some of these kids' behaviors?
No, what we do have that's real effective is people like me. We also have a variety of assistant principals that either have grown up in that area, like me. I'm originally from Trenton, New Jersey, and I grew up like that. And we also have a resource officer that, instead of doing punitive things, he'll come in and he'll talk to them and be like, okay, this is what it looks like. I could do this, but because we're here, this is what I'm going to do. Or I'll send it up to juvenile justice. We've never had any incidents like that. But if that does occur, we put those in place because we're still kind of small. So we're able to do our own policing within, to be like, all right, this is what is going to happen as a result of this. Because we don't have that high crime, or we need mentors to come in and do this, that, the other. But I will say we have an amazing program that we run in the summer for our football boys that's called Character Camp. And the Character Camp does have speakers come in the summer to talk to them about different things, dressing for success. And that was started by my husband. And he had different speakers come in and talk to them about different letters, whether it's financial, whether it's how to dress when you go to a game, and all these things. And they continue to do that program today. Bringing in different speakers, bringing me in, telling them how to get academic money versus athletic money, because with these transfer portals, our babies in high school don't stand a chance unless you coming out. And I know ain't no such thing as 6-star, but if you ain't coming out as a 6-star athlete, you're not getting no athletic money anymore. So you got to teach the kids how to work the system and get that academic scholarship and get that preferred walk on. Or going with who who wants you. You might have to start at a low level school, but we have all those cushions in place for our kids to help them. And I do go to other places and do teach these skills and talk to other people about how to cheat the system, because it's a flawed system right now. And and that's a lot of things that we do at my particular school. We have the people in place that have the real life experiences to say, hey, y'all might not want to do this because this is how this ends up. Y'all might not want to look this way, or we'll bring somebody else in, like a Coach Washington, and say, hey, Robert Washington, I'll say, to say,
Right.
no, this is not how it's supposed to be. I'm going to mentor you up. And we do that around the school. So they may send a young lady to me and say, this young lady's having some issues, and I'll tell her, guide her and, talk to her mother and try to get some things going. But that's how we do it. We do a more community site based thing to make sure our students stay on track. We do.
Good deal. Anybody else got anything for Miss Tolson?
I got a
Yes,
question.
do.
I got a
This is
question
Coach
for you.
Washington. Have you seen a correlation with behavior and kids that are academically behind with behavior?
Absolutely.
They're behind academically, so they're behind. So they start showing out because they so far behind they can't catch up. I don't think they want to do it. It's just they're behind in the class.
Listen.
So they're showing out.
Your biggest class clowns are not trying to be Kevin Hart. Most of them can't read. And that's the reality that we have. The achievement gap is so big, especially in your CMS schools where I've had students come from CMS schools, and me even working in DC. That's where I came from, the DC area. And them being 3 to 4 grade levels behind, and you do know that the law is in place unless you just really are insistent that K-8 does not get left behind. They don't call it No Child Left Behind anymore, but we know what it is. K-8 still has that standard in place that we just gonna push them along and try to teach them that skill next year. But if I keep getting pushed along, I'm going to keep getting further back. So what's happening is most teachers are trying to close that achievement gap. And when we see that, we try to identify the problem and correct it. Most times, especially in your big school districts, they don't have the time nor the resources to close that achievement gap. So I wouldn't even say for my school that's happening, because we have the time and the resources. We're a smaller school. But in your CMS schools, your dropout rate is at least 30-40%, because those very kids that you're talking about that we did not catch in middle school, that are acting out and that are saying, I can't read, this school ain't for me anyway, dropping out, committing those crimes. And they talk about it, the pipeline of prison based on the test scores in 3rd grade. That is what you are experiencing. And I may be that kid that don't come to school because I ain't seen my mom in 2 weeks. So I ain't coming to school because I haven't seen mom. So you're talking about different dynamics. And I see that in the CMS system. Is it broken? Most school systems are in urban areas. But it takes those teachers to say, okay, little Johnny not coming to school, and he always throwing the chair and telling me, this, that, the other, to get to the core of it, to take that time as an educator to be like, what is going on with you? And to care, because once you show the kids that you really give, a crap about what's happening with them, they'll start responding. I'm not going to say it's going to be a whole 360 or 180 or whatever you want to put it in, but they will start responding, even if it's just to you, to make sure that somebody care about whether they achieve in the classroom and just not on the field. And that is why I am the academic coordinator at Mountain Island, because you ain't getting on my field if you got an F. I don't care if you could kick it from the goalpost to goalpost. You're not getting on there. So that is a different standard that I set for that. You got an F going into Friday's game. You have a good day. You're not paying on Friday. But that is the standard that I set, because you need that in the school system. Because most of these babies that I've checked with coaches such as yourself, and then they come to me and ask me, well, how can my kid or how can my student get a scholarship? And I look at their GPA and they got a 2.1. You ain't even passing the clearinghouse, baby. What we gonna do here? So those are the things that, I'm very real with my athletes as well as my regular students that do not play. I'm like, I know you ain't talking about you going to Chapel Hill with that 1.8. Yes, I am. I'm going to Chapel Hill. Okay, you're going to the Church of Chapel Hill, but you're not going to University of Chapel Hill. Okay, so those are the things that you got to be real with your kids about, and not selling them a dream. And unfortunately, a lot of these coaches are selling these kids dreams. And they're saying, boy, you out there and you on this gridiron, you doing this, that, and the other. And the boy can't even read his contract to sign it. Can't even read it. And those are the achievement gaps that we need to fill. because
Don't get
yeah,
me started on that.
it's a lot. And I tell the kids all the time, people are gonna work you for be a workhorse. If they want you to be out there to be a workhorse, they'll do it. They'll work you to death. But by the time you're 35, NFL, and I always tell them NFL means not for long, because they're gonna cut you if they don't want you before that 3-year hit, so you don't get that pension. So there's a lot of things they don't see the layers that are here. But let me speak for myself. I always try to close the achievement gap. So if somebody asks me, like you gentlemen asked me to come speak on the show, I'll speak anywhere and tell them the same story, and I'll show them the evidence of why this does not work, why you have to actually be in school. School may not necessarily be for you, but it is a necessary evil. You got to do it for this society and to maintain in society. Even if you're an entrepreneur, you have to have the basic K-12 education. Basic.
Yes.
And you don't have to graduate with a 4.0, but it would be nice if you graduate at least a 2.5, that at least tell me your average, and you can get in somebody's state college, because the state college minimum GPA is a 2.3. So at least we can get somewhere. And CP and these community colleges will pay you to go to their school. But we have to make sure we are telling them that it's okay to get a trade. It's okay to do this. We have a program at our school that for the kids that don't want to go to college, we bring in people for internships at this place called Bloom, and they have to have a certain GPA, but they come out of school starting at $60,000 an internship, and they pay for them to finish their degree, and then they work for Bloom. But those are the things you have to put in place for those kids that are acting out, for those kids that you don't want to read. Let them go in the welding program at Gaston. Let them go in these different programs that are going to help them. And Gaston just started adding a lot of sports to their repertoire, so people can come in and still continue their sports career, but go to a community college. So these are things that kids just don't know. They don't know. And, I'm here. I'm trying to be my one person to put it out there, but that is your direct correlation to people not knowing about what's and attitudes and behavior and things like that. And a lot of it in our community, I'm sorry to say, is undiagnosed ADHD, undiagnosed different things that are PTSD. Some of our PTSD, and some of the things that our community don't want to talk about. We don't want to talk about
that was going to be actually one of my questions. I'm glad you brought that up. Do you guys have any thing in place as regards to like mental health and wellness for the kids, just students, athletes, parents? What do you guys have in place for that?
We actually are partnered with Atrium, and we offer the students in-house therapy for free. So if you can't pay through your insurance, we use the insurance first. But if we can't, you are not able to pay through your insurance, or your parents are underinsured, or whatever the case, then we offer it for free. It is called teletherapy. They literally build a room for the children to have privacy, and they go into that room and they talk to a counselor, and they have that space for an hour to have a therapist, because kids need therapy of all walks, race. Shoot, I need therapy. I get therapy. So those are things that, people really don't want to talk about or explore. But at our school, we do. We if we see something that's a little off, or something we feel like that socially, emotionally, we address that. And we also have a team in place, and many of you probably have heard this team being in the school system, called MTSS. And MTSS is multi-tier system solutions. And what we do, we bring the counselor, the principal, all the guidance counselors, and all the APs together, and we talk about each student that might be failing and what's going on. Is it social emotional? Is it just academic? Is it them being lazy? And we meet every Friday. And
awesome.
Every Friday meeting, and we say, okay, this child got a 2. Why they got a 2? What is happening? We bring that child in, they go, I just ain't do my work. Or so in one case, we found out a kid was homeless. He ain't had nowhere to do his homework. And then what we did, we brought them in on a teacher work day, and they work with me from 8 to 1, because that's my job.
Wow.
I'm going to bring you in. Dope. I'm going to make sure you got food, and we're going to do this work. We're going to do this work. And that's how it works. You got to allow some grace for these kids. That same grace you want when you late to your job or you
Mhm.
ain't doing your assignment is the same grace I give those babies.
That's dope. Let me ask this: having that resource in place for the kids, that outlet, how has the communication been between the students and the faculty? Is it a little more free, or still got to pry to get things out? But has it helped them being able to communicate better?
That space helps them communicate better, because sometimes it's one-on-one with me. I'll go to them and check in on them. Just
Mhm.
little quick check-ins to be like, okay, what's going on? How are you? What's happening with this class? You're not in trouble yet. I ain't gonna put you on MTSS yet, but what's happening? And most of
Right.
them do open up and say, this is what's happening. So they are a little freer with their conversations. Sometimes there's a little prodding that has to happen, but for the
Right.
most part, they're very free with their information. And they'll tell you, this
That's
is what's
dope.
happening. My mama did this, or I was just upset that day, so I didn't get a chance to do something, or whatever, or I was just tired, Miss
Mhm.
Toslin. There's a couple things that can happen. There's so many different things, but I always give them the poem of excuses. They mean nothing to me. Now there are a lot of
Awesome.
things that are just, hey, I gotta go with, all right, we're gonna just give you the space to be this, or we're gonna give you some grace on this. But telling me you tired, telling me you got a job, we all got jobs.
All right,
We pay bills. You are a teenager, you ain't paying nobody bill. So until you get to me, I really, your sob story ain't working for me unless you got 2 kids at home that you're paying for right now. It really,
Well,
it
I
really
definitely applaud you guys for creating that safe space, man. That's huge. I think
thank
that should be
you.
implemented everywhere. Good job.
That is
Thank you.
absolutely awesome. And
I appreciate
some of the perspective we were looking to hear. You sound like
thank
you're pretty locked in with your athletic program as well, as it
Mhm.
relates to your student athletes being able to balance athletics and academics.
Mhm.
So I'm pretty sure you work close with Coach Washington and his
Mhm.
team. And we always talk to Coach Washington. Well, we talk to a lot of the high school coaches, and we've interviewed
Mhm.
Coach Washington as well. I love him. Um, and we talk a lot about what name, image, and likeness mean now to those kids, and do they take the time and kind of break that down to show those kids what that looked like as far as getting, the kids are just thinking about getting paid,
Yes,
but before you
absolutely.
get paid, you have to check all the boxes and meet the criteria for what NIL means. What's
Yes.
your give us some insight on that?
We break down everything from clearinghouse to NLI. We tell them how hard it is to get an NLI. Just because you are at a college don't mean you automatically get an NLI. Just because you get an offer from a college don't automatically mean that NLI is attached to that. We always make sure that we also stay with the trend. So what I've been fortunate in being is one of the first female speakers at the Glacier Clinic. I speak there every year, and I also did a parent series to talk about what that looks like, and what we do to make sure you are well educated and getting academic scholarships, NLI deals. We've had a couple students that graduated from Mountain Island that got NLI deals, but they were extremely small. And what people need to know is these NLI deals are not what you see. What's that young man that got one? Maybe not LeBron's son, but there's a young man. I can't remember his name right now, but his NLI deal is like in the millions.
Oh
But
yeah,
one of my students, he got one where he sent me a link to buy his t-shirts because they had his
yeah,
name on them. So you understand what I'm saying? And he, and he was given that deal just from playing at Hampton. He played at Hampton, and that was what his NLI. It was based off of what we bought. Okay, so yes, we had shirts with this particular young man's name on it, but that doesn't mean he was making millions off of it. But that was
right.
still an NLI. So once somebody breaks down the levels of what an NLI can look like, then I think they will get a better understanding, because they automatically think, I go to college, I get money.
No.
Most of those people that have NLI deals are D1, first of all, and most of y'all can't make it to D1 if I gave you a scholarship. Number two, most of those deals are high level performing athletes, and some of y'all ain't even committed to the type of cereal you eating every morning, let alone committed to being in the gym every day. And some of these people that do have these things, that's what they're doing. They eat, sleep, drink, athletics, and academics. So, you know, you got to get those kids with those understandings, because some of our kids will get that. Some of the kids that you coach probably are in the NFL or have made it to that level. But they will come back and tell these kids, yeah, but I had to go to study hall in college 6 o'clock in the morning and 6 o'clock at night. Or I had to be in the weight room 6 o'clock in the morning, and these kids they ain't even cracked their eye at 7. So, I mean, there's so many levels to it, and we do keep our kids well informed. And I stay on top of the trends of what's happening and the transfer portals and all the things. So when the parents come to me and say, well, why didn't my child get a D1 offer? Man, we're 1A. They might get one, but it's few and far between. We 1A. You know, we are making a little bit of noise in the valley, but we still 1A. If I have a choice to take a 4A athlete from Mallard Creek that's a dog on the field versus mine, that, you know, he might be a dog too, but you know, this person's going to get me the most bang for my buck or the most notoriety for my school, I might go with the 4A kid that's going to have the work ethic, that's going to have the grades as well and all the things. Because most students, I will say this, think that if I have a offer that that's it, it's signed, still delivered. You still got to pass the clearinghouse. You still got to get into college. Most young men don't know that. Most young ladies don't know that. They're like, they came and offered me, I'm hot stuff. Yeah, but you got a 2-1. I don't know what's about to happen with you.
But you make sure, you guys make sure the coaches and the ADs are explaining that to the group, the athletes, before, you know, they get so locked into that mindset, right?
We do, but that can't take away from what a parent that's had their child in Pop Warner since they can breathe, and that my child is the best one out there, and you sleeping on my child. I don't know how many y'all done heard that like thousands of times. Y'all sleeping on my child. No, your child is trash. And I'm not trying to make it, you know, I'm not trying to say that for every child. But just because you've been at Pop Warner every week and you spent thousands of dollars in AAU, don't mean your child is not better than this child is than Michigan. I think we have this small lens on sometimes where we live, that we are not competing with the world. You're competing with the world. You're not just competing with Mount Holly and Charlotte. You might be the number one player in Charlotte, but you ain't the number one player in the nation. So those are the things that they don't see. They see they're in their own bubbles. They're in their own little bubbles, because Texas football, listen, if any of y'all had the chance to go to a Texas high school stadium looking like Jerry Jones Cowboy Stadium, and how much they put into their programs and how much they put into their young men, and that's why they're getting in their lives, and that's why they're getting NFL contracts, and they're leaving and declaring for the draft in their sophomore and junior years, because they have that training, they have those high level facilities. People are telling them freshman year, you may not be able to get all A's, but I need you to get A's and B's and stay away from them C's, so we can get this, academic money as well. That's going to help. So those are the things.
Hey, listen, joining us, and thank you so much, Ms. Tolson. But joining us now is the current athletic director at J.M. Alexander Middle School. I think he's also BMT, right? At Alexander, right, Jet? You can shake your head if you can hear me. He look like he's stuck. Is he stuck? Shake your head, Jet. Say, can you hear me?
You're right, bro.
Yeah.
You're right.
Well,
Yeah, I can hear you.
Jet, Hey, Coach Jet, yeah, we can read you. Coach Jet's been down in the trenches, Beatty's Ford Road, grown. He played football at Ranson Middle School, West Charlotte High School, Johnson C. Smith University. Been coaching for 18 years. Offensive coordinator at Ranson, running back coach at West Charlotte. Blah blah. He's been down in the trenches and he sees some of the most challenging things in these, in these middle schools and high schools. And the reason why we want to have him on to add some perspective from his scope that he sees it from, as probably see it a little bit different than Miss Tolson, a little bit more of it than Miss Tolson. But welcome to the show, Brandon Jet.
Yes, sir.
Hey man, you gotta say something after that introduction, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
You're supposed to
But
clap
listen,
right
bro,
there, like Dion said. You're supposed to clap.
Oh yeah, I got my little clapper thing or something. Oh, that was a
Yeah,
drum. My bad. Yeah, Jet. Kind of what. Yeah, I missed it. Kind of what we was talking about. We talked about earlier. I spoke to you earlier about the different challenges there is in the middle school and transitioning from that fifth grade going to middle school and what are the challenges that you see from a disciplinary standpoint, the different negative behaviors that you see, just kids getting more exposure to gun violence, sex, drugs. It seems to be happening at that age.
Yeah, that's true. But let me say this, book. I worked in an alternative school for 10 years, right? I did high school, alternative school, Turning Point Academy, and I did the middle school, Turning Point Academy. So it's more than just starting at the middle school level. I had a guy in the 6th grade in there for gun charges, right? I had a guy in there 5th grade, elementary, gun charges at a alternative school. So it's more than just, middle school, high school. These kids these days, man, they start at an early age with different environments that they're brought up in at home. Okay. Our cultures are different. We're raised different. You know what I mean? I'm Bates Ford Road. You know what I mean? I've seen a lot of things growing up that others may not have seen going to school, like running from bullets and things of that nature. Seeing people get shot on the way to school, walking to West Charlotte High School. You know what I mean? So, and I also learned growing up in a single family home. My mom raised 5 kids that not everybody got access financially to do different things or to keep their kids busy. My mom was one of them. The only thing that got us involved in sports because we had a neighbor, you know what I mean, that was like, listen, your boys out here playing in the street, they look talented. Let me get them involved over here at Dorado. If not been for Mr. Looper, we never would have got a chance to play organized ball. You know what I mean? But my mom was rough on us. She didn't play. She had zero tolerance with behaviors in school. My mom stayed in my school. I was one of those kids who stayed in trouble, fighting all the time. My mom stayed at Ranson every other day. You know what I mean? But it took me different lessons to learn when I got to West Charlotte in the 10th grade that I had a skill set that can probably take me further than everybody else, athletically. My thing was the academic part. My dad, he died when I was 2. So mom had to work 2 jobs. So guess what? We spent a lot of time at the house. She had the behaviors and stuff. She'll get us, but I never did pick up the academic piece. So when I did, like she said, mention, you get offered 4 D1 scholarships, but I had to go play football at Johnson C. Smith. You know what I mean? So through all those trials and errors is why I coach now to tell and teach kids. It starts in the classroom. And you hear me say it all the time, but academics and behaviors go together, right?
Yes.
Kids get it at the school, but when they go back home, the environment is different. They can't play little good Johnny at home because that's soft.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Amongst their cousins and their peers and friends, man, you soft. You go in the house, do some homework, you soft. So their their challenge is peer pressure. How do I fit in? If I don't go smoke this vape, what are they going to do? You know what I mean? And by the time they get to the 6th grade, also the next two worst transitions in the school level, they have to make some serious choices and fast. You know what I mean? So am I going to be the athlete or am I going to be the honor roll student? How do I do both? They don't know. They're really finding out their identity on who they are and what they want to be. Right? So you ask the question, do the school put things in place? Yes, the school have things in place, but they don't have personalized things in place. Right? As you know, we have probably one of the best athletes in middle school, right? But the challenge is keeping him out of trouble, right? We pour love into him and he gets it at school, but when he get off the bus to go home, he's right back in his environment. You know what I mean? And it's not cool to produce what we're pouring into him at home. So a lot of these kids may have different struggles. A lot of them living with, hey, stepdad. A lot of them living with grandmother. A lot of them living in a single parent home. So they just don't have access to a lot of things that other kids may have to make them successful academically, which give them that athletic platform to go to D1 school. So it's a lot of different areas you have to look at. It's just not school. It's culture. It's support. It's family. It's friends. It's coaches. And, you know, you just have to figure it out. And unfortunately, everybody's story is not going to end the same. You know what I mean? I know you. I know Philando. I remember Philando in Tanglewood. Dude, I'm like, this dude, who is this little chubby dude? And then a couple years later, I'm watching Philando on stage looking like Mr. Universe. You know what I mean? But I know Philando never easy. He just locked in on something and decided to give it his all. I don't know what drove him, right? But it was something that drove him. A lot of kids don't have that drive. I don't know if Philando grew up in a mother and father home. I don't know. But I know that joker had a drive to work. And he put everything in it. And that's why he was able to, you know, outcompete everybody that stood behind him on stage. You know what I mean? So everybody just not built with it. It has to be something, man, to pull that drive out of you and say, hey, I'm not going to hang with this group. I'm going to hang with this group that's making the A and B honor roll and give myself an opportunity to go play with this D1 group. A lot of kids just don't have the education or the knowledge to make the right decisions. They have a whole lot going against them. But then you have a whole lot of kids that have a lot of things going the right way too. So everybody's experience is different, man. And I think it's just based on what they're facing mentally. What all can they handle? Are they telling you what's going on? Are they checking with the camera? Are they talking to the parents? Are they letting anything be known? A lot of kids these days not, because they're afraid of getting backlash from their peers.
All right. I think the one thing that speaking on that, the one thing that helped me, I mean, I did grow up in a 2-parent home, but I had a mentor that was a bodybuilder and someone I respected and looked up to. And what he put inside of me, bro, and what I saw him do, he wasn't one of those. He was one of those mentors that was doing the things he was telling me I could do. You know what I mean? So the path was set. So I think a lot of kids are just missing mentors, man, that are really dedicated to that kid. You know, and that was it for me. That was everything for me. You know, so the leadership in the community is what we're missing.
Totally
I
agree.
agree. Definitely we're missing.
I think what's important, man, is that, you know, as we 6 and 7, I know Hawk's coming in and out, for us to realize the power that we have to influence, be change agents and create changes in our neighborhoods and communities. And one thing that I do, and I know we all do, whether it be Twin, Booker, or Tanya, I know your children. And I also make it important that you know my children. So when that need is there, you know, that's how we kind of build that link. You know, it's kind of like Captain America, where we could really get something done. I mean, when we speak about people like Tanya Tolson. I mean, she's worked with pretty much every high caliber kid that came out of this area, whether it be Dre Walker, Amonte Ferguson, Zion Booker, Kevin Concepcion. She sat down in those series with the elite classmen and explained to them exactly how this is going to go about. And now they're carrying that out. But I know you do the same thing, Book, Jet. I know you guys are doing it. I think it's just important that we continue to build, you know, those bridges one family at a time to build those communities, you know. And that's why, like, you know, Booker, you saw my son at the game yesterday. How does he know my name?
That's fine
You know
for
what I
everybody
mean?
to run. Because I
I
know
want
you
him to
run.
know who you are. So that's
For me, it's a
kind
little
of what we gotta
different.
do, man. And,
I posted on my Facebook page, my son for the first time did a
Miss Tolson.
presentation for the Living Museum as Jackie Robinson, and he talked about.
You got to get it in,
Mute
bro.
the mic.
She about to get
You
in.
have to mute the mic.
I just muted her.
But yeah,
I just
that's
muted
why I think it's big for us, man. Even though we don't, you know, we're not gonna get the praises or the rewards, but I think the reward is actually seeing those kids, you know, succeed. Like I hear Jet say, you got one of the best kids in the city at the school. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know exactly what he's going home to. And it's just almost like, damn, we can't win, but we got to find a way to win with that one. We just got
Can
to.
y'all hear me? Oh,
Yeah, we heard you. We heard you loud and clear. We had to mute you. You was going
thank
in
you.
on another call.
There was somebody on my phone. Listen, whole meeting. I apologize.
You're good. You're good. You're good.
Yeah, that's
Go ahead, Jim.
unfortunate, man. That's one of the things that's actually kind of frustrating as a coach, because you know you have such a limited amount of time to pour into these kids, and you know, and then they go back to the poison, you know, and then once you know you get in a tough situation, you're gonna always go to the path of least resistance, and that's gonna be what you're comfortable with, right? So getting uncomfortable is gonna help you break that cycle. But if you don't have that constant hand on you, and you just going back to that negativity every day, that makes our jobs difficult, bro.
Very
And
different.
you know, I mean, but you still gotta keep pushing. Hopefully, some nuggets will stick. You know, and I mean, and it may not be right now. It might be 5 years down the road. Be like, damn, that's what Coach Clark was talking about. That's what Coach Tony was talking about. And then it hits them, and then it was all for naught. You know what I'm saying? So it's just frustrating that you try to do so much well, and then they have to go back to basically a toxic environment. That's, you know, now you got to reset every day. You know, and I saw that a lot, especially in the beginning of Betty's Ford. You know,
Let me ask y'all a question. And then this is going to be to the left. This is to the left now.
To the left. To the left.
This is something real nobody thinks about.
Just
Now,
you.
this one's going to sound crazy right here.
Just you, twin.
Miss Tolson gonna be able to handle this.
Well, it's me, because I always think it all the
Yeah,
time.
you the
Your
only
brother,
person thought about it.
your brother says it's with me too now. It's a running joke, but it's serious. He tells it to me. Do you think this is the age of the crack babies having babies? I'm for real.
nah, bro. Nah, that's real.
If you do the math,
It's a real thing. It's a real thing.
Now, I ain't trying to be funny. If you do the math,
Nah. I say that a lot.
for
I say
real,
that a
man.
lot.
Nobody thinks about this. Now, it's funny, but it's not.
Nah, because you think
All right,
about that.
let me
Because
say-
that was in
You
the
do
80s.
math.
Those kids were born in the 90s, and now their kids are
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
YNs.
So what is crack? 83 to 86?
No, up to like 90s.
The 90s.
Yeah, 86 up to the mid 90s, late 90s.
Yeah,
So
but
they
they really
really
boomed to like 88.
Listen, some of these people still on crack. Now,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be very real.
I'm just saying, like, do you think we're seeing the wave?
Yeah.
Of
Yes,
Nah,
we're seeing
I
the
agree.
residuals of it. Yes, we're definitely seeing the residuals of that era, which was a very crazy time. And those kids that did survive had those undiagnosed things that were happening to them medically, physically, chemically. that
Yes.
were introduced to them and that was passed down to different generations. And people don't realize that that whole shakeup does carry on.
Oh, absolutely.
Anything that was chemically introduced is passed down to your next generation, whether it be the changing of your DNA, whether it be the changing of anything.
Right.
And though that's presenting itself in a different generation. If you're, you know, something as simple as medically, I'm coming from a medical aspect. Your grandfather may have had high blood pressure, but his son doesn't, but you got it because it skipped a generation. Those things are happening when it comes to your drug addicted parents, whether it be heroin, whether it be crack, whether that be any their drug of choice. And they're having these kids that have ADHD, that have ID, which they call it right now, but in our time it was called mental retardation. Now it's called intellectual disability. Those kids that are having speech delays and those things, and it is manifesting itself in this generation that's coming up between your 11-year-olds up until your 18-year-olds. That time and era where their moms are between 35 and 40 years old. And you know, I was born in 75, but I grew up in that crack era and seeing people have kids and knowing that nobody ever talks about what happened to those kids. They just figure, they somewhere.
Like they disappeared.
But they are very much present and very much having kids. And we are seeing that in the school system, and we wondering why little Johnny can't sit down, or wondering why, as Coach just said, going back to the hood and can't, you know, break that cycle. They just can't break it. It's just like it's ingrained. They came up in it, and it's a part of their very infrastructure that I grew up in the hood. I ain't like school, so you know, you ain't gonna be much more than me. And if you do something more than me, then thank goodness. But these parents from that era are really not. Some of them are pushing their kids to be better, but on average, you're talking about 25% of that generation that's pushing their kids to be better. They are doing the same vicious cycle. You don't go to school, you go to jail, you stay on the system, let the system take care of you. My mama worked at McDonald's. Why you ain't good enough to work at no McDonald's? Who are you? And these kids want better for themselves. But when you're pulled into that vacuum of viciousness, that's what they go back to. I can give you all the love, like Coach Jet said, give you all the love at school, the encouragement, and then you go home and your daddy tell you you ain't worth the spit it takes to cuss you. You know, it turns into a vicious cycle of anger and lashing out and just hopelessness. And all of us as coaches and educators need to, you know, a lot of that pouring into them is not going in vain. You may not see it manifest right there. You may not even see it manifest when they leave. But I promise you, most of the kids I run into, like Coach Tony said, most of the kids that I run into be like, what you said was true. And so I ain't even, you know, I say, because I tell them in a minute, y'all not going to think about me when y'all leave here. Nobody's going to ask you what the circumference of a circle is. Nobody going to ask you that. But what they will ask is what your moral character is. How do you work well with others? And that is what this education is getting you. You may not like the person next to you, but you're going to work in this group. There are people that I know most of you have worked there with your lifetime and you can't stand them. But guess what? Your boss may know you can't stand them and put you on the same project and you look at them like this mother. But, you know, you still do the job. You still do what's necessary to make sure your family is fed or that you achieve that goal. But kids are not taught regular life skills. Sometimes you got to say, all right, you getting A pluses, but do you actually go outside and play ball? Do you actually know how to speak to somebody? I have students in my classroom. They are across from their classmates. They will pick up the phone in their face and text them a question and saying, hey, are we going out after school? They will say, hey, and look that person in their face. Social skills are trash right now. And when you're looking at that and you're looking at all the other factors that are contributing to what our kids are experiencing nowadays, this is what is about to take care of us, unfortunately, for the rest of our lives. But as long as we are still there teaching those skills and staying on it and staying on it and staying on it and keep talking, it's going to get through. It may not manifest to you right there, but it will manifest somewhere. It will. We're not pouring into these kids for nothing. It is going to pan out because this is a thankless job that we're doing, all of us.
Absolutely.
Thankless. We get yelled at, parents
Absolutely.
telling us all these things that they could have did better, or Monday morning quarterbacks, all these people. But
Monday morning quarterbacks.
listen, they could coach you down, but when you get their child there and they can't tell you, they can't even tie their right shoe. I mean, it's just what it is. And I'm learning to develop thick skin for parents like that, and to know that they think sports is their ticket out of the hood. And for most of them, seeing that on the NFL, the NBA, that is their ticket out of, I don't have no food this week. That is their ticket out of, my mom didn't do much and she told me I wasn't much, but look what I'm doing right now. How many stories you seen on Sports Center with that sob story? We came from the backwoods of Florida and this is what we had. We ain't had no running water, but my mama threw the ball every day, and it's my mama. And you coaches play a vital part in these boys' lives, because some of them don't have, you the only daddy they know.
Yep.
Or if the dad come out the woodwork on signing day and you like, dog, who are you?
Right.
Yeah, one thing I can say
Hey, book.
about Coach Jet, man. Coach Jet, I coach right along with Coach Jet, and been knowing Jet for a long time, man. And this guy, he is, and we don't have enough of them. We don't have enough of Miss Tolson's. We don't have enough of Coach Jets, man. But Jet is constantly and very consistent about letting those athletes know that you're nothing here on this football field if you're not getting it done in that building. He constantly preaches that no matter what. And I remember last year we were coaching, and I think we was going in pretty intense game, and he had suspended like he had suspended like 3-4 of our athletes, and I'm like, oh shoot, like Jet, you serious? Like we get ready to play cool. We need these dogs. Hey man, hey, and I applaud him for staying consistent with who he is, man, and sending that message out. That if you're not gonna get it done in that classroom, in that building, it's a reflection of me, with him being a BMT and the athletic director and the head coach of the football team. Everything was in his image, so he made sure to stay consistent with it. So, yeah, it's not enough. Is it enough, guys, in the school systems? And you said it's a broken system. Ms. Tolson said already. And it's because we don't have enough of you guys that's impacting the neighborhoods and the schools like you are. So yeah, Jet, you had something?
Yeah, man. I was going to say,
I'm friends glad to you, man.
I was piggyback. I appreciate that the information too you put out there about the book. I appreciate that. I was going to piggyback on what she was saying, man. A lot of times what I'm seeing in middle school is two different things, man. I don't know about the crack era. I don't know who's doing that, who's not. But I will say this. Most of the trouble kids at JMA, I'm gonna say JMA, when it's time to do a mediation, right? The grandmother show up, right?
Yes.
The grandmother who's 70 years old, and the sixth grader is 6 feet, 200 pounds, and grandma saying, "Hey, I can't do nothing with him." You know what I mean? I get a lot of those situations. So a lot of times the kids take advantage of that because they know grandma gonna love them no matter what, right?
Yep.
Another scenario is I get a single mom in there who's been raising. She's young. She's 30, 3 kids, and she'll come in, and no matter what the school says, she's going to advocate for her son or daughter, no matter what the situation is. You know what I mean? No matter if the kid is wrong, kid is right, mom is going to always advocate. What are y'all doing to my kid? And there's only one side. They hear what the students text the mom before mom even get there, giving her story, right? Trying to build up a defense. So by the time mom get to us, she's not even wanting to hear what we have to say.
Wow.
So it's hard to go against that because you don't want to argue with the parent. You want to listen right? And hopefully give them something that can encourage the student to change their behavior. I get a lot of single parents, a lot of single men up there. Now, when the men come up, it's a different ballgame. Like the men, they're a little bit more, aggressive in raising their boys, and them boys listen. When the men come through, they say, "Hey, they listen." Them boys tighten up. They're a whole different kid. But as soon as dad leave, get in that car and go down the street, and they go back to class, they revert right back to that bad behavior. Because there's things that dad do at home that can't do in the classroom or the school for that matter.
Do you think a lot of these kids are becoming, when they get to school, they become a different character? Like you were saying, Jet, the dads come up there at home, but when they get to school, they become a no. This is serious, man.
Nah, watch that.
My man,
Sounds like it.
like when they one way at home, but when they get to school, they're another person.
Bro, they're the same way you were.
They don't even know who that kid is.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they become a totally other person. But when they go home, they don't cuss or do anything. But when they get to school, they become somebody. I guess that's like trying to fit in and be accepted. Like they, because I don't heard my friend said about some kids at Wilson. The boy daddy come home and say, "You don't even curse at school, but you over here cursing Coach Steve." He said the boy get to school becomes somebody totally different. Have you seen that? I'm saying, have you seen that, Jet? Like you were saying, the daddy come up there, as soon as the daddy leave, he back to showing out.
I see it all the time.
Just becoming something.
Bus. The kids that get off the bus in one outfit, and you change and you look around, they're in a whole different outfit. You know what I mean? Because they can't replicate that at home. A lot of these guys, man, they'll come to school one way, an hour later, they got on all blue. We all know what blue represent, right? So these little kids, man, even though they're in the 6th and 7th, 8th grade, man, they're attached to things outside that the parents have no idea because they're getting all the information through social media. You know what I mean? So these group chats that's going on, all this social media, we can't keep track of that in the school system. Nor do I want to keep track of it because it's just too much. But we're left with, y'all need to fix this. Now I say, well, this conversation started Saturday at home. So now you bring it to the school, expect for us to fix it at school. This started Saturday at home. I'm looking at the group chat. It started Saturday. Like, why do the kids still have the phone? You know
They need to go through their kids' phone at night. That's what we do.
What you mean? No, they are scared of their kids. I keep telling y'all, they're scared of not.
We go through all this.
I've talked to people all the time. Well, if I take their phone, how they gonna get in touch with me? Call the school. If there's an emergency, call the school. We ain't had no phones. If you really need to get in touch with your child that bad, come inside the school or call the school. But parents are really afraid of not being friends with their kids.
A lot of parents don't take the phone because they're scared of retaliation from the kid. Literally. Yeah. I had that conversation today.
Yeah.
You said retaliation.
Yes. Retaliation.
Yes.
Man. Oh, what?
Wow.
Bernie Mac is some punk ass.
And honestly, you can. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. Of a parent being in a meeting and they looking at their child, and I'm looking at, and I've been in the meeting where I'm like, you said what? And I was about to. I literally had to be like, I'm about to jump over this table.
Right.
I said, you said one more time, and then yes, ma'am. But they will tell their parents off.
There's something that I heard from a parent before that made me think. I had a parent tell me that they grew up with so much dysfunction that they would prefer siding with keeping the peace in their house.
Wow.
Which is part of the reason why they would let a kid get away with stuff, because they don't want it to be friction the way they grew up, where it's a arguing at a kid or the parent arguing at a parent, if that makes sense. And you think like a lot of it goes back, like you spoke to, Tanya. It's just generational things that are woven into who we are and how we think that causes us to maybe not do what's right, but to do something different because we don't want our kids to experience what we experience, but not being mindful of the impact of or the negative impact of what we're doing to them and how it's going to affect them in the future.
Absolutely. And I think that, you know, we as parents don't do everything right. And we also, as you stated, just reiterating that we want better for our kids. And sometimes the one thing I will say I do different than what my parents did, the seen and not heard thing. I don't do that. I never did that with my kids because I feel like kids have their own opinions. And I'm not saying that you can be disrespectful in that opinion, but I do let even my students speak their mind. And then I say, are you finished? And then I go back at them. But I do let them get that out because growing up, I think a lot of kids, even me as an adult, is scarred sometimes because they be like, shut up, stop, grown folks are talking. But kids actually have real opinions. They really have their own minds. And some of these grown kids that I teach, you know, like seniors, are grown-ups and they're young adults, and I treat them as such. And I don't disrespect a child. I don't care what age they are. Because there are some teachers that be like, you know, I'm the teacher, I'm right. No, you wrong. It's 3 left shoes on a 5th Sunday. I need you to correct your mistakes. There are times that I've come back and say, oh no, that was so wrong. I'm sorry, y'all, I was wrong. I had the wrong information or whatever, or I apologize. And I think some parents or teachers feel like they don't have to apologize because what I say is law. No, ma'am. And I think that's why I get a little bit more respect because I'll say, oh, that was wrong. Let me go do my research. Or what do you have to say about the situation? And there is a time, and actually Coach Robert Washington allows me to do it. I have one-on-ones with the athletes. And what I do is I'll say, hey, so what do you feel about this coach? And how do you feel like his technique is? And they give me honest feedback because I'm like, this is an open forum. But when I take it back to the coaches, it's general. I say, okay, the team feels such, 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 such. Or they feel like this can happen. And there was one particular young man that I'm talking about, he was heard so well that they don't practice on Fridays now during the summer and that was one of our biggest recruits that went to Stanford. And what he did over the summer, he went to the coach and was like, Coach, we are busting our tails Monday through Thursday. Can you please give us off Fridays? And these are the reasons why. And he sat there and listened to that. Until this day, them boys don't practice on Fridays because not during the season, but during off-season workouts, because everybody needs a day of rest. Jesus rested. I mean, Jesus, give him a break, you know, and those are the things. But once he presented his case, and you wouldn't think a kid would speak like that, but if you give a chance for a kid to actually speak, then you know they actually have something to say. And that's where you get your respect from. It's not necessarily shut up, you don't know what you're talking about, because that happens a lot. And a lot of kids are so demeaned by adults that when it's finally time for them to speak, they're disrespectful because they've been holding all that in and couldn't say what they wanted to say at home or at school. And that's where, going back to what you were saying, Coach, why some of those behaviors are coming from. Because they've been told to shut up the whole time. And you're like, well, dang, can they say something? So even when my kids act up, I'm like, okay, what were you thinking when you did that? Or why did this happen? Or what made you do this that resulted in this? And this is why I want to tell you why you got lunch detention. This is why you have ISS. This is why we sending your tail home. And I give them a thorough explanation on why those things happen. And I'm not even a disciplined person, but when they get their consequence, I go to them and be like, this why this happened. I give them real, like I talk with my kids, this why your tail going home. Boom, 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 boom. And then they tell me, you know, give me the rebuttal. They didn't give me a chance to talk. I know, but you showed your tail, so guess what? Your mama on their way. And those are the things, once you know, talk to kids and let them know, hey, you do have a say-so, but this is the appropriate time to say those things. You give them the space and you teach them, and they follow along. They do. You really have, when you give a child a certain level of respect, not as an adult, but as an actual child, they sometimes fall in line. I'm not going to say that happens all the time, but a good 75% of the time is pretty effective.
Yep. Coach Jet, you want to add to any of that? You muted. Yeah, there you go.
I'm listening to what she's saying. What she's saying is there's really nothing else to add on to it. But what she's saying is exactly right. You know what I mean? And it's so many different other angles to go with that. But what she's saying is spot on. It's spot on.
Now,
Hey,
Jet,
Jet, let me ask you a question. So, if I understand correctly, you're the AD and you work in the school. I know you're the head coach, right? So,
Yeah.
Tanya's an assistant principal. Do you see any disconnects in the school with how you would go about, discipline and engaging with the kids as far as the coaching or sports and athletics and administration? Like, is there a disconnect, or are you guys usually on the same page?
Good question.
No, it's not a disconnect, but it's a see when in the school you wear a different hat, right? When I'm on the field with Booker, we put a different hat on, and we can really get with the kids one-on-one.
Yeah.
We have more one-on-one. In school, you don't have a whole lot of one-on-one. You got class time. But after school, we have a lot of one-on-one. We taking kids home. We taking kids to feed them. We talking to mamas. Daddy's coming on the field after practice, talking to the kids, telling their kids individually on why they doing what they doing. Booker bringing people to the table. Booker's experience speaking to the kids. He used his son for an example. I used to see Booker do stuff with his son in the backyard, bro, before he even went to high school. And I watched it pan out. You know what I mean? So we just take our experiences and testimonies and we just pour into these boys after school. We can't do that during school, right? However, I do have little programs where I have a few 8th grade come and sit for 10, 20 minutes. You know what I mean? We have programs where officers come in and talk to the kids for about 30 minutes to an hour. You know what I mean? But after school, you're able to be hands-on. You get to say, hey, what's going on at home? How can I make a difference? You know what I mean? You can have a different conversation where they don't feel like they're being judged. They feel like they're being heard. And with me having almost like the same background, we can have a conversation without judgment. And that's all they want. Like, listen, I'm gonna open up to you, but I don't want to be judged. So when they feel like they can have that conversation and a Coach Booker can understand because he experienced the same thing, or Coach Jet or whoever, same background. Some of my kids, man, they grew up Base Fort Road. We from the same neighborhood. I drive up at McDonald's, they be behind me. I tell the lady, hey, pay for that. Let me pay for this kid. That's my athlete right there. They be like, hey, Coach Jet, you can't. It's a different connection after school. You know what I mean? We get with them on the weekends. Coach Washington, Book last year, man, they did amazing with these kids in the summer. We had our kids the whole summer.
Yeah.
We going to Monroe. We going to different schools they never been to. After school, man, you can be family. It's more than just school. Like, we family after school. Like, we in this thing together. So we talk about personal things that they wouldn't bring up in school because they don't have a connection with the school counselor. The school counselor ain't from the West Side. The school counselor from Arkansas. You know what I mean? I can't open up to Arkansas because Arkansas don't know the struggle I've been through. You know what I mean? But a Coach Booker and Coach Jet, they know where I'm from because guess what? I know about the Bates Fort Saints. My brother played for them. My uncle played for them. So it's like, hey, we talking to family. You can't have a conversation with my coaching staff where one of them can't relate directly to the kids. It's impossible.
Right.
Yeah, because when you in school, you an administrator and you have to go through those administrative procedures, right? Your layouts of everything y'all got laid out, the plans. You have to go through that first. I forgot what I forgot what y'all call it.
You got to go by the book.
You got to go by the book.
Well, you got like
administrative book.
You got like you got a handbook, CMS handbook, but then you got a behavior matrix that you got to follow.
Yes.
Because if you don't follow, then you're gonna have some issues, legally. So there's a lot of things that you just have to follow, man, to keep the liability off of you. But after school, you can really grab that kid and be like, listen, let's have a serious conversation. Reality sits in right now. You know what I mean?
Now, Jim, let me ask you another question. Because at Sansfield, I had a teacher for 2 years that would just come to every practice. And I asked her, I was like, why do you come to these practices every day? And she said, Coach Washington, because you terrorize the terrorists. I said, what do you mean? She said, you got some kids that terrorize this school. But she said, when they come to practice, they don't say a word. And I be asking, tell me how you act in the school. But them kids don't say a word, Jet. I can't get them to show me how they act in the school, because on the field, they dare not say nothing. They don't, I don't see it.
Man, listen.
And I can't believe they be acting like that in the school.
I like that teacher.
Listen,
I like whoever that is.
It's called PT.
Coach, you're
playing
taking
time.
them home. You're having conversations about family. You're doing everything that daddy would do or not doing. So they open up to you. They don't get in school, in class, they got a time frame to get this assignment in.
Yeah.
We don't have time to get no relationship. So the relationship is never built because they got 25 other kids, 30 other kids that they got to pay attention to. They can't focus on little Johnny, right? Because I got to get this out because I got another block coming in 10 minutes. So the one-on-one is really not there unless they can get it through the counselor or after school. Because the teachers got a deadline. They got 5-6 blocks, right? My wife was a dean at West Charlotte High School. I hear stories every day. You know what I mean? It's just not enough for what the kids need at school because they're on a time frame. Every kid at school got a different plan. They got an IEP, they got a 504, they got different plans. You know what I mean? So it's like, how do I reach everybody when everybody's not on the same page? Everybody's broken up into categories. So I can't speak to this one. I may have a kid, a class of 25, but I can't talk to them all the same. I got to break them down individually, and I got to go to every last one of them different because of their experiences. You know what I mean? I can't talk to everybody the same. I can talk to this guy, like my son, because he's from Bates Ford, but I can't talk to Betty Sue over here because she may find me aggressive. So now I got to find out a different delivery to where she can feel comfortable to communicate. It's a lot, man. It's a lot.
Yeah. Watching, I like what you said, but we've had that to happen, but not to that degree where teacher comes out to the practice. I guess that teacher comes out to the practice because she want to see. I want to witness. Somebody that told her little Johnny is totally different in front of these coaches, and she wanted to see it.
I say, which ones? She say, the ones you be on their ass every day. She say, but they don't say a word to you. She say, Booker, they don't even talk. And some of them ain't even the best players. But they get in that school, boy, they are.
Yeah. Just say that all the time.
When they get to that practice field, bro, they won't even talk. I can't get them to talk.
You know what I do, Washington? Ask Booker. On my football staff, I got teachers. On my basketball staff, I got teachers. On my track staff, I got teachers. They can't come outside without seeing a teacher. That follows them back in school. So the way you act out here, you better act in school because your track coach is your math teacher. You know what I mean? Who ran track in tech. And, you know, I just got teachers, man. I make sure that my football and my those guys, they're not in the school. They some football guys. But I got them teachers out there to support those guys because they see them in the school. So I make sure I got teachers with every sport. I got 2 or 3 of them. Math
I like that. And I like that with me. With me not being in the school kind of helps me. So when having those teachers out there with us on the staff, so we can find out, what's going on.
The right way. That's a great balance. Because I'm gonna tell you what, ain't nothing worse than that damn math teacher out there that don't know nothing about nothing. I can tell you that.
You got that right.
A lot of those. But that's why you're doing it the right way, because you got the balance.
Yeah, because some of the math teachers might not know that was a first down, and they might think it was 9 yards. No, first down is 10 yards. But yeah, man, it's a huge difference, man. Some of these kids are in freaking shock when they encounter somebody like myself on a football field, and they from single parent homes, and they from single parent homes with mom, and then all of a sudden they encounter somebody like a Coach Booker, Coach Q's guys that's on our staff, and we're straight disciplinaires, and we've pretty much been there and done that, and we have a no tolerance, you know, and we got boundaries you dare not cross while you're out here, and they're totally different kids. They looking at us like, oh shoot, if I want to play football, I got to deal with this guy. Yeah, and it's every day, and I'm very consistent, and when you have an AD on the staff, and he ain't playing around, so now it's like, okay, so I done jumped in this vehicle, and I can't get out. So if I want to play football, if I want to stay in this sport and make the grade, then you know I gotta. And then they end up conforming to, you know, and complying. So, yeah, man, I like it.
And I was listening, you know, even though I was off camera, you know, I think I've given my players PTSD, because I'm going to tell you this. I tell them at the beginning of the season, at the parent meeting, if y'all see me on this field, y'all know it's about to be hell at the well. So if I got to come up here and especially in the summer, because I've had to snatch players because they lost their eligibility because of their fourth quarter. And I go up there and I'm like, if y'all see me in the summer, I'm telling you, if I got to snatch one of y'all off of here, it's going to be a problem. Now, one day I just decided to go visit them in practice, and everybody looked like, what are you doing here? But if they have that, not fear of me, but fear of the situation and what their eligibility may be, then that changes their mind. Because I don't come to practice. I'm not coming. What am I there for? I'm not telling you how to do a kick return. I could care less about X and O's or what you do. But what I do care about is what's happening off the field. How are you showing your janitor that's sweeping the floor and cleaning up after you respect? How are you showing your teachers respect? Because if you disrespect your teachers, I'm coming. I'm coming. We only got one hallway, and I'm coming. And even if I had more than one hallway, I'm coming. Because like Coach Tony said, I mentor kids outside of Mountain Island. I'm not just only for them. I go to other places. I sat and coach, I think his name is Tremaine, the one that trained some of the players, brought me in and with Coach Hawk, facilitating through Coach Hawk to come talk to the boys. So people, you know if I'm coming, I'm not coming to talk about how's your football career going, because I don't care. I don't care. You could break your ankle tomorrow and it's over. That's what happened to the guy from Stanford. Actually, he was highly recruited for Stanford, got a full ride. Yep. His deal was so sweet that even when he was medically retired, they still paid for his degree. That's the type of stuff you want. He graduated Stanford this past summer.
Awesome.
4 years on Stanford University.
Marcus Graham?
Marcus Graham.
Yeah, I remember him. I remember him from when I was coaching there. Wow, that's been a minute.
So he is a data scientist right now with a Stanford degree, but he never played after his first year. Coach Clark, he never recovered from that when he was a senior, never recovered from the ACL tear.
Oh, okay.
His ACL.
Yeah.
ACL.
Yeah.
He had surgery, and they said, listen, we still going to take you, even though you did not have, he had one down his senior year, one down. They still gave him the full ride because they said, we're going to rehab you in Stanford. You're going to be fine. And that first year had another tear, and they had to medically retire him, but he still got a Stanford degree. That's how you work the system.
Hey, well, look, guys, we've run out of time. Thank you, Ms. Tolson. Thank you for coming on and giving us your perspective. And what you do is we appreciate, those raising those boys, the men, and those young ladies, those young girls, the young ladies, and the things that you do are highly impactful, and we appreciate everything that you do. And so much for coming on.
Thank you for technical difficulties. I appreciate you guys.
All right. Thank you. Hey, guys, we're going to wrap it up, man. And we appreciate y'all coming on, Tony, Wash, Clark. Appreciate y'all coming on the live, man.
Appreciate y'all coming
on the live. Later.
All right, buddy.
All right.